and yelled out the name Hepzibah. And she came up to me and she hugged me.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're experiencing Elizabeth Smart's nightmarish kidnapping from her perspective.
It felt like the system was rigged against me. And I thought, this has gone on for almost a decade. It needs to end.
Here are 10 of the biggest bombshells from Netflix's latest true crime documentary, Kidnapped. Plus, the grisly details filmmakers didn't cover and the lingering unease it all leaves us with.
All I've told you
Then
is
you tell me the truth. How did Elizabeth wind up with you? Tell me the truth right now.
By the power of God, she was delivered to us.
The sole witness was disbelieved. The only person present when Elizabeth was kidnapped from her bedroom in June 2002 was her younger sister, Mary Katherine.
Mary Katherine was very likely going to be the key to finding Elizabeth.
The problem was she was only 9 years old, and she had just endured a trauma that made accurately recalling a memory very difficult.
Anybody who has a traumatic memory will make certain memory imprints.
She was isolated in order to keep her recollection of the incident intact.
The police officers didn't want me talking to anyone because it would possibly influence my memory.
A number of bizarre tactics were employed as well.
They even tried to hypnotize me at one point.
Ultimately, police disregarded much of the information she was able to provide.
I knew I'd heard the voice, I just couldn't remember where I'd heard it from.
Even when she clarified that their prime suspect was innocent, investigators doubled down, presuming she was misremembering.
Mary Katherine had been asleep. She would have been groggy. The reports that we have said she kept her eyes shut during the abduction. Maybe she didn't really realize it had been Ricci.
A false suspect died in police custody. Police zeroed in on Richard Ricci, a contractor with a lengthy rap sheet who knew the layout of the home and had a wage conflict with Elizabeth's father, Ed.
I mean, what you know about the kidnapping?
I don't.
Oh, shit.
Mary Katherine correctly dismissed him.
I just knew it wasn't Richard Ricci that night in my bedroom.
But during his processing, he died of a sudden brain hemorrhage.
And they said, Richard just got transported up to UMed. He collapsed in his cell, and it is not looking good.
It's a tragedy glossed over by the documentary that initially paints him as a villain.
Richard Ricci was a violent felon.
What's left unreported is how he had been complaining of a headache in holding before slipping into a coma. He died trying to defend himself from false accusations and had no opportunity to speak to his family when he started feeling ill.
Want me to make up some bullshit?
No.
Too many things that don't. Well, I don't get what it is. Find out who the did this shit.
Years later, his wife took her own life, and loved ones claim it was due to a broken heart. Police initially thought it was an inside job. In crimes involving a child's welfare, someone close to the child is often the guilty party.
There's some indication that this may have been an inside job.
This is evidenced by leading questions officers directed at Mary Katherine.
Did his voice sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Police started their investigation here, and a number of red herrings sounded alarms early on.
I was told that the alarm had been inadvertently left off in the window.
Investigators took issue with the way the chair had been placed to cut open Elizabeth's window screen.
My initial assessment was maybe this wasn't the point of entry. Maybe it was a staged one.
It became more convenient to assume her family had something to do with her disappearance and to work backwards.
People would watch Ed on TV when he was talking, and they would make statements like, "There are no tears when he's crying."
All the speculation about Ed turned out to be wildly untrue.
I had absolutely nothing to do with this.
Sadly, these compounding events sent him into a spiral.
And my father said, if you don't calm down, I'm gonna commit you. So he took me over to the hospital and put me in the psychiatric ward, and I cried that whole night.
Elizabeth's uncle couldn't pass a polygraph. In the documentary, Tom Smart is presented as an eccentric character who operated on the outskirts of the family.
Tom was kind of a little bit on the edge of things, always getting into some trouble.
We're shown numerous interview clips where he spews a stream of consciousness that actually makes him look pretty bad.
Maybe one brother doesn't like another brother. Don't get me wrong on that. This family is
We love each other.
We love each other more than any brothers possibly could.
It got to the point that family members became concerned he'd draw too much negative attention.
We all have issues. Anybody who's we've been ripped apart to the core, and we understand that everybody has issues.
Tom was struggling to process the harrowing circumstances of his niece's kidnapping and had begun to lose his grip on reality.
You know, after 3 or 4 days of that, with no sleep, you tend to collapse on yourself.
He recalls hallucinating when he took his polygraph, likely the reason it came back inconclusive.
I mean, I was hearing things.
Ultimately, the Smarts' alibis all checked out, disproving the standard to point the finger at the family first. Elizabeth was meant to be the first of 7. When Elizabeth is introduced midway through the documentary, she tells the true story of what happened the night of her abduction.
He told me God commanded them to kidnap 7 young girls. And I was the first of the 7.
Her bedroom had been entered by Brian David Mitchell, a religious zealot who worked on their roof months prior.
Lois had told him, if you need some work, here's my husband's card. And so this person helped me on the house.
He was a panhandler who lived in the woods with his wife, Wanda Barzy. Their camp was located even further up the trail than where the tracking hound lost Elizabeth's scent. According to Brian, it had been prophesied that 14-year-old Elizabeth was to be one of his wives.
He said, I hereby seal you to me as my wife before God and his angels as my witnesses.
She recalls that Brian also threatened to make her sister or cousin his next wife. Initially, a similar crime scene generated a theory that a serial kidnapper was at large.
When I went out to the scene, one of the things that I observed was that there were 2 chairs by the window, just like they had placed a chair up against the wall at Elizabeth's house.
However, the filmmakers leave this thread hanging. The case in reference was the murder of Kelly Nelson. She had been abducted by Sally Ann Krivenek, the jealous ex-girlfriend of Nelson's new boyfriend. Ultimately, there was no connection between the 2 events. Nevertheless, it's terrifying to imagine what could have happened if Brian did manage to pull off a string of kidnappings, especially considering what he had already started doing to Elizabeth. Elizabeth was treated like property. Brian, an unhoused man with little real control, used Elizabeth to get that surge of power he felt was divinely owed to him.
He talked nonstop about how special he was, about how difficult these things that in any other circumstance would be wrong to do, and he didn't want to do it, but he had to because God commanded him to.
Elizabeth was subjected to constant sexual abuse. She was even regarded as Brian's pet.
He would hold on to the cable and basically walk me like a dog.
His constant threats and intense psychological manipulation, like withholding food, deterred her from attempting to break free.
He used God to justify what he did.
Even worse, Wanda encouraged Brian's psychotic behavior. When they trekked into town to preach, Elizabeth was dressed in a bizarre garb that obscured her appearance. In fear for her safety and the safety of her family, Elizabeth complied with Brian's orders.
The thought of crying out did cross my mind, but I was 14. I had been extremely abused for months.
A detective let Brian and Wanda go. While in Salt Lake City, a detective actually stopped Brian and the 2 women cloaked at his side. One was Wanda, the other was Elizabeth.
I wanted to yell out, but Hepzibah grasped my leg.
The detective mentioned that a girl had been missing and asked Brian to remove Elizabeth's shawl to help identify her. Brian refused to comply, insisting it would be a violation of his faith.
The only people that will ever see her face are her future husband and myself, her father.
In the end, the detective was persuaded and let them all go.
I didn't feel safe enough crying out, and that lifeline disappeared.
It's just one of the many failures of those in charge of the case, which stalled justice and allowed Brian to hold on to his child bride for a while longer. Investigators dismissed the big break. In a sudden epiphany, Mary Katherine recognized the voice echoing in her head as Brian David Mitchell, who had been using the alias Emmanuel.
Was Emmanuel the man who was in your bedroom? Sure, it might have been. You're not quite sure, but it might have been?
She had only had 2 brief encounters with him. Once when she and her mother first saw him on the street, and again when he spent a single afternoon providing handiwork at their home. But investigators were not convinced, and they withheld an eyewitness sketch dictated by Mary Katherine.
Our perception was if we went public with it, we could scare the perpetrator away.
It's the second time her testimony was neglected.
We're not certain who Mary Katherine saw, and we're not certain that she knows who she saw. He's coming up with this new idea or this breaking news on this case, and it really is not.
Police circled back to Richard Ricci, concluding he was guilty and had taken secrets of the case to his grave.
The police had spent thousands of man-hours trying to find Elizabeth, probably more than any single thing in the history of Utah. And I think that they were done, and they believed they had their man, Richard Ricci.
But it gets worse. Police actually had Brian in custody for stealing beer while Elizabeth was being held in his tent. Without making the connection, they let him go. The sketch held the final clue. Speaking of the composite drawing, it remained sealed in police files for months. The Smarts finally convinced detectives to go public with it. As expected, a number of tips poured in. One of those would prove to be the exact call investigators had been waiting for, except Uncle Tom was the one who'd fielded it. A man had recognized his brother-in-law as the eerie face from the press conference.
He's just crazy enough. And said there's a possibility. You know that he does have a teepee that he's had up in the mountains.
When the individual sent a real photo to Tom, Ed immediately knew it was Brian.
Brian Mitchell's ex-wife called, and for 2 hours we sat there and talked about Brian. We found out he's a dangerous individual.
Effectively, the case wasn't even cracked by the jurisdiction running the investigation. Once the Smarts canvassed the town, they spoke to numerous people who had interacted with those uncanny figures cloaked in white.
And she said, Tom, I think that was Elizabeth. And it felt like I was struck.
Finally, the trio was stopped by officers in Salt Lake City and Elizabeth was rescued. The true heroes? Elizabeth's sister, uncles, and parents.
15-year-old Elizabeth Smart was found alive today.
280 days after she was kidnapped.
It's as if she came back from the dead.
This is a story that defies all odds.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Elizabeth's kidnapping was considered an anomaly. Time and time again, we hear that this crime was inconceivable because of Elizabeth's social status.
A 14-year-old Utah girl taken from her bedroom while her family was sleeping.
How could it happen right in her own bedroom in an affluent community?
Reporters and police comment on her angelic profile and regard her neighborhood like some kind of fortress.
Our investigation revealed no boyfriends, no shady associations, no drug use. Elizabeth Smart was just a very typical 14-year-old devout Mormon girl living a very normal life in a very nice neighborhood.
She came from too good of a family. She lived in too nice of a community. But if we've learned anything from true crime documentaries, it's that these serene places where you think crime won't happen are actually the places it can and will happen.
Federal Heights is one of the most ritzy areas in Salt Lake City. The homes are gorgeous. The Mormon church is interwoven into the community. You wouldn't think crime happens here.
Being among the upper echelons of society isn't an immunizer, and neither is living in a stunning town. Then again, perhaps this is exactly why the case was selected for a Netflix special.
An innocent girl has been stolen from what should have been the safest place in the world.
Our biases may lead us to only anticipate crime in low-income areas. So, these shocking cases of terrible things happening to affluent, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white women make perfect fodder for a Netflix documentary. Once again, filmmakers inadvertently beg the question, if this was never meant to happen to someone like her, then why did it?
Elizabeth, if you're out there, we're doing everything we possibly can to help you. We love you. We want you to come home safely to us.
What do you think was the most shocking takeaway from Kidnapped? Let us know in the comments.